Hills Document Assistant is a 501c3 nonprofit legal assistance organization located in the southwest area of Fresno, California.
You are here. I want you to know that you have made this day. This day is not a result of one person or one organization.
Candace Hill, founder, president, and senior legal assistant of HDA, recognizes that one of the most effective ways to reduce the number of future domestic violence cases is to educate the community at large. HDA's commitment to domestic violence prevention via education is their main motivation for hosting their annual Restrain the Violence workshops.
Volunteering today, can you just stand so I can acknowledge you just with this? And as soon as that's here from City College. All right, thank you, Ron.
Dr. Jean Kennedy, who served as a domestic violence panelist, decided to turn the workshop into an opportunity for the students of her Women's Studies class to earn some extra credit. Any of Dr. Kennedy's students who agreed to attend were put to work as volunteers. Their tasks ranged from greeting guests and holding signs to assembling the food catering tables.
To be here this morning with you to carry out this very important mission in our community. When Candace asked me to serve as your MC this morning, I did not hesitate to say yes, because I feel that it is part of my duty as a member of this community to give back and to be proactive in finding a solution to domestic violence. I want to tell you, as a member of the media, we are often on the reactive side of domestic violence. We cover the stories that are often all too tragic, and it is really indeed an honor for me to be part of a proactive approach that hopefully will save at least one family after this afternoon of the tragedy of domestic violence.
On May 14th, 2011, HDA proudly hosted their 4th annual Restrain the Violence workshop at Fresno City College in Fresno, California. ABC 30's Action News AM Live co-anchor Margot Kim served as Master of Ceremonies for this event. Margot Kim, alongside many other influential public figures, educators, and community leaders, all collaborated to lend their support and insight to the workshop. Upon arrival, participants of the workshop were greeted in FCC's corridors by third-party social, media, and advocacy groups, all of whom partnered with HDA to advertise their like-minded materials for this event. Lunch and refreshments were provided by Chick-fil-A and Starbucks, who also helped to sponsor the event. The workshop was spread out amongst 4 different spaces within FCC's Health and Science building. In Forum Hall 150, a domestic violence panel discussion took place. It was an interactive panel discussion facilitated by Tate Hill and John Cordero, who was also the session conductor. Panelists such as Fresno City Councilman Oliver Baines III, Senior Deputy District Attorney Tim Donovan, Retired Deputy Commissioner Rufus Morris, Medical Social Worker Lisa Nichols, Women's Studies Professor Dr. Jean Kennedy, and Ron McLean, President of the Health Marriage Coalition of Fresno and Madera County. All worked in congruence on the panel to discuss the series of concerns of domestic violence.
Effects of domestic violence on children who witness abuse in their home.
It affects the entire family, and it affected me as a child growing up in the school system. I had a lot of behavior issues, a lot of developmental delays when it came to schooling. So there's a lot of social impact, a lot of mental
effects on the victim itself. My mother now has a mental health disease because of it, so she's not been the same, and she's been out of that relationship for about 33 years now. So if they don't get the help or have the support, there's going to be a lot of long-term effects. And I was just really blessed that my grandmother was very supportive to my sister and I, so we were able to kind of be okay with her, but my mom didn't get that. And so it does play effect on everyone that's involved. It's not just the victim, it's the child, it's the friend or the family member that hasn't given up on that victim.
And as you just heard, I stand here not only as a prosecutor, but as a victim of abuse. And while it wasn't domestic violence, of course, it was abuse from a child molester. And I had to go through not just the courtroom process, but my wife and children were subsequently also threatened as well. He sent an article saying that he was going to basically shoot me and kill me in front of my wife and kids. So I had to deal with that. I had to be subpoenaed, I had to testify in court. It was a long, involved process. And he currently, of course, is serving a 58 years to life sentence at Folsom State Prison. So when I talk about victims' issues, I'm telling you, I'm very passionate about it. To not only let victims know, but to tell them to get empowered, to get involved in the process.
How productive can that person be, knowing that they have to go home to certain types of circumstances, and it impacts not only that victim, but also those that are around them that are aware of that. And there's even increased incidents of workplace violence that are really domestic oriented, where that spouse or their boyfriend or girlfriend comes to the place, or they're calling the location, or sporadically come to the business. And so it begins to directly impact that employer, those employees, that work environment.
If you're in the home with someone who's using passive-aggressive behavior, intimidation, you've set yourself up to be a victim. So how do you handle your stuff outside of the home, around you, with your families, with your friends?
Yeah.
Are you setting yourself up? Because remember, the victim, the perpetrator, has studied you. He or she has studied you. They know your weak points. They know how accommodating you are. They know how private you'll be on certain things. And it's just a matter of time before, obviously they want something. When anybody's using that sort of behavior, there is something that they want, and they'll go at it at no matter what cost. And if I'm in a relationship with someone who also uses aggressive behavior, and I've not told myself, you're right here with a person that you know, but right now you're feeling very unsafe with what's going on in that room. That was my education. So what that did was then my entire environment since then being heightened. And I'm very aware around people who are aggressive, who come at me a certain way, my students who are disrespectful, people who gang up on me because they want to say something. Now I'm just using that as an example. Even though their intentions may not have been meant to harm me, but it caused an emotional harm. And I also looked at my environment, who sat there and allowed this behavior to take place and didn't call it out. So that also made me realize that, wow, you were put in a victim situation. So what does that say about you as a person? That's my education. And what does it say about the folks that are around you who feels it's okay to use intimidation or aggression? So that's the education. When we say you got to educate someone, you got to break it down to where they can understand that.
I can remember when I was a kid, my father's cousin, he's my cousin too, but my father's first cousin, my second cousin, violently would beat his wife. I mean, and he beat his wife so bad one time in front of my house when I was probably 3 or 4 years old, in front of my mom and, you know, my dad. And this is, you know, I'm 35 now, so we're talking about maybe 30 years ago. And no one called the police, right? My mom was horrified, made my dad sleep on the couch. I think she was really mad at him. And he couldn't come over to the house for a long time. It was a big issue in our home. But my point is, if you look back then and we think about that now, that could not happen now in my neighborhood. It just wouldn't happen. Someone would have called, someone would have intervened. And I say that to say that we have come a long way, right? I mean, we're not in the same place we were 20 years ago, 15 years ago, with how we view domestic violence and how we report domestic violence, and even how people will intervene or not with domestic violence issues.
The way you get out of this, you roll out. You're going to roll out. You're going to use your strength, okay?
On the grassy knolls just outside of FCC's Health and Science Building, Moore's Shoshu Karate Dojo, who are also one of the continual co-sponsors of the Restrain the Violence workshop, taught guests how to defend themselves if they ever find that they are in a domestic altercation which has escalated to violence.
We also have a person in our studio that's in a wheelchair. He can't walk. And he's already, he's like a blue belt, you know, and he's been doing very well.
And
he's really slow, but he's got a lot of strength.
And we find their strong points, and that's what we work with. And we'll just go over, because the techniques that we teach our students, we can't teach him, obviously. So we find what works.
You know what? You ought to be thanking God. I'm even talking to you, let alone calling you my girl.
To educate students on the dangers of domestic violence amongst teen dating, God Inspired Productions created an acting skit which was performed in the hallways of the Health Science Building. The skit illustrated the characteristics of an abusive partner and the thought processes of an abuse victim.
Normal behavior. The abuser does everything he can to regain control and keep the victim in the relationship. He may act as if nothing has happened, or he may turn on the charm. This peaceful honeymoon phase may give the victim hope that the abuser has really changed this time.
Come on now, let's go see the movie. Let's go get the tickets, huh? $20.
Just take it.
Go on now, get the candy. Hey, don't forget my sucker.
Sucker.
My lollipop, yeah. Cherry.
Carrot.
Yeah.
Cherry sucker.
Yeah. Man, I can't stand this stupid girl. Man, I've been having to put up with her crap all day long. Always saying something stupid, on and on. Man, I'm gonna make her pay for wasting my time. You know what? I think I'll let her conveniently find another girl's phone number. Yeah. She gonna cry. She gonna beg. But I gotta teach her a lesson for messing with me.
Fantasy and planning. Your abuser begins to fantasize about abusing you again. He spends a lot of time thinking about what you've done wrong and how he's going to make you pay. Then he'll make his plans of turning that fantasy into reality.
Yeah, and there's 3 other programs underneath us. You've got the Ombudsman program that basically advocates for residents in the nursing home.
Representatives from Caregivers Resource Center were present to educate guests about another devastating form of domestic violence, elder abuse.
Jackie O'Kelly's All About You CD, and Ronaldo, would you be so kind to pull one? We have Paul Banks. Oh, all right.
By the end of the day, the goals of the Restrain the Violence workshop had undoubtedly been met. HDA and all other contributors had worked to bring enlightenment, understanding, and elements of resolution to the ongoing battle against domestic violence.